Open her up here. Gee whiz! Feel the power. I'm going to catch third real quick. Oh, that was bad. I'm going to catch second. Oh, David. Oh, there you go. Hopefully Alex is still back there. So today we've got a really cool story about a truck that looks like yard art, but is a truck that, believe it or not, has served so many purposes throughout its life and still allegedly, there's my journalistic term of the day, runs. And
it is a working truck.
Yeah, and I don't believe this, because you look at this truck and it looks like it hasn't moved in decades, but David bought this truck in the 90s, is that right?
I think, yes, it was in the mid-90s.
When it was over 50 years old,
yep,
and used it as a proper truck. So why don't you tell us the story?
Well, Julie and I had moved into the old house that I grew up in. My parents had lived in an old farmhouse, bought it when I was just a small child. And as in a lot of old farmhouses, it had its problems. The house was sinking in the middle. It had a monster fireplace right in the middle, and the floors of this house went about 4 inches lower in the middle than on the perimeter. And so when my parents gave it to me, I knew that it had problems. And my long-term goal was to tear it down and build a house in its place. So I needed a pickup truck, or a dump truck, that I could haul all the debris off as we were tearing the house down and building a new one. So I actually bought two trucks. This was the first one I bought, and then I later bought, it was a 62, and I'd park them on both sides of the house, and then I would, all the plaster and lath from the inside of the house we'd throw in the bed, and then when one was full, I'd go to the dump. And so that's why I bought this truck, and I loved it, and it's awesome yard art, so I've kept it all these years. Well, I found it just about, a half a mile from here. An older gentleman had it, and he had it in his barn for years and years, and he told me it ran. He said, you're going to need to do some work on it. So I said, and I think he was asking like $400 for it.
Okay.
And I said, I'll take the risk. All right, if we're going to drive, we got to drive in comfort.
Look at this.
We need a couple cushions.
All right, so David, first of all, how do we disable automatic emergency braking and lane keep assist?
Well, let's see. I don't think we have that on this.
I don't think we do. I don't think that's what that button did, to be honest. We don't even have seat belts, even.
No, there are no seat belts in this truck. This is pre-seat belt.
Although, to be honest, I think if you run into anything, you're probably going to win.
We're not going fast enough to hurt anything.
Now, interestingly enough, it is pretty spacious in here.
Yeah, I mean, they're narrow.
Yeah.
Narrow cab, but
I don't know if the seat adjusts, but it's actually, legroom is pretty good.
Yeah.
Headroom is pretty good as well.
Yeah. Well, if you have the seat that's eaten out by rats, the headroom gets better over time. So it's a 45.
Okay.
And they started making this body style in 41, and they carried it through 46.
So that was war era, World War II.
That was war era. And so during the war, I don't know if you know this, but they quit making cars. In fact, the only vehicles that were made are vehicles that could be beneficial for the war effort. So, trucks, course hauling, food and ammunition and whatever. So they kept making trucks during that time. Although with this one, as you can see, it had no chrome whatsoever.
Really?
I mean, very utilitarian.
When you see these trucks or ones like this come up at auction at like Mecum or Barrett Jackson and they're fully restored,
right?
A lot of the times the front ends they'll have chrome bumpers and chrome grills
right here.
But this is how they would have been. They would have been painted.
These were chrome. These were on the other versions. This is chrome. This is chrome. This is chrome. The bumpers were chrome.
But during the war, they had to dechrome them.
It was utilitarian. Yeah. These hoods are pretty cool the way they fold over. So Chevrolet, when they first started making trucks, they all had straight sixes. Huh. And I don't think the V8 came out until the 40s or early 50s. This is a 216 straight six. During that time, GMC was making this truck too, but the motors in the GMC were different than the motors in the Chevrolet.
Huh.
They were still straights,
Interesting.
straight sixes, but they had different displacements. This one's a 216. I think its predecessor was the 235 that they were putting in trucks, and then of course later on they had the 250 and the 292.
Let me look up the displacement here, cubic inches to liters.
So I believe that's 3.5 liters.
Wow, so it's pretty small.
A 216 is right about what a EcoBoost or a Pentastar or what V6 would be.
Right.
Yeah. But you know how many horsepower this was rated at?
I would guess 100.
90.
90?
Yeah. The key basically turns the power on.
Okay.
And this is our choke, which we won't need it now, but runs better with the choke.
Wow.
That
Starts
easy.
up immediately.
Yeah.
And it doesn't knock? Do you think the head's ever been off the engine?
Not since I've had it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wild. Okay, so is it a granny low or is it a...
Yeah, you got to start out in granny low. You need first in order to start out. So there's first. All right, we're ready?
Yeah. 3 miles an hour in a
There's
second.
no synchros in the transmission.
No synchros? That would have been a good thing to know. This is such a cool experience. It's wild to me that, you know, what are we now? 55, 65, 75, 85, 95, 05, 2015, 75 years later, the way you drive and operate a truck is still pretty much the same. You gotta hold the door closed. That is an interesting design feature.
I better fix that. There we go. I didn't want to knock our camera off.
You know, it rides good.
It does ride pretty good.
That is really good.
Remarkably smooth.
Now the engine, is it original to the truck, do you think?
Everything's original. I mean, the wires aren't. I think I put some new wires on it, but the horn's original, the air cleaner's original, the carburetor's original.
Wow, the carburetor's
Yeah.
original. So patina-wise, did it look pretty much the same, or was it all painted and shiny?
It had a little more paint on it. I think it's lost some of its paint, but as you can see, it still has a logo on the side, and you could read the logo a little better than you can now. And it was a furniture company, and it right here is furniture, and then right here it said St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, interesting.
You can faintly see it.
And was this like the DOT number?
It was, yeah. Yep.
Really cool.
And that was probably the gross. Right here was 12,000 pounds. The gross
12,000 pounds.
weight. Yeah, GW, 12,000.
This is a dump bed. Do you think this is from the factory like this, or was this a thing where you'd buy the truck and then bring it to a aftermarket?
I think this was probably added by a farmer later on. My guess is, it was being a furniture company, it might have been a flatbed, but I doubt if it was a dump bed.
Okay.
So I think probably a farmer had put the dump, and it looks like it's kind of, a farmer would have done.
Okay.
It has these wooden stringers underneath it, which actually wooden vehicles weren't that uncommon in the 20s. I mean, wood spoke rims were pretty common back in the 20s. But somebody put a wooden stringer on there and put the flatbed. So I'm guessing that was later on. Might have been a beat truck or who knows what.
Now moving out to the back here, this is kind of interesting. Was this originally a dually?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, it is a dually.
I still have the others, but the kind of weight I was carrying didn't really need a dually, and I didn't have the money at the time to buy 2 new tires. So I think I put these on sometime in 2000s or something.
Okay.
And so
whatever works.
They worked, and yeah, they can handle the weight.
Now what about the brakes? Are they drum brakes?
Drum brakes, yep.
Yeah, all four.
All fours drum brakes, and unfortunately, my master cylinder is leaking. So when we drive it today, we have to use the handbrake.
All right, we'll get a little creative. And the view out the hood is so cool.
You can actually see your front wheels. Unlike these new hoods that are like massive, you can see the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say it is a little bit noisy.
It is noisy.
I've never heard anything louder at 10 miles an hour.
Well, this lever over here, that's my PTO.
Nice.
So the dump bed is driven off of the transmission with the power takeoff.
Interesting.
And so you have to put the clutch in, and then you pull that out to start the dump. Then we have, this is like a little throttle, but this is a choke. And this one could be my flashers. I don't know, that one hasn't worked. then this little lever here was actually for this glass window. So you get a little airflow coming through.
A little fresh air there.
Yeah.
And then talk to me about what those levers do on the floor there.
So this one is the handbrake I was telling you about. It's just the emergency brake.
Okay.
And then this is what engages the PTO mechanism
Oh, interesting.
and allows the hydraulic fluid to flow into the cylinders. So you pull this back and the bed goes up. Now I had to put this 12-volt battery. This is actually a 6-volt system. All the light bulbs and the starter and everything runs off of 6 volts, but it will run off 12 volts.
Huh.
And
It seems to work.
it works. I think I have to be careful not to overheat the starter, but the battery compartment is down here, but my 12-volt battery won't fit down there, so I worked it so that it could hook up right here.
So talk to me about the transmission. How many speeds and what's the shift pattern?
It's a standard 4-speed manual transmission with the reverse is this lever here. You have to come all the way over and down.
Wow.
And you have to pull this little lever to do it.
Interesting.
So
okay.
there's reverse, and then there's first, second, third, fourth. I knew you were coming this week, so I worked on it. I actually drained all the fuel. I put a new fuel line in that was all gummed up. I put a new tire on the front. I tried to bleed the brakes. It didn't work because my master cylinder is bad. I fixed the hydraulics on the dump bed and checked all the fluids, and that way we can drive it today.
Nice. So is there any way to not crunch first gear, or is it just gonna...
If you hit it just right at the right RPM, when you come out, wait just a second in the middle and then come down in a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And then pull?
Yeah. And remember, if you have to stop, that's your only mechanism.
That's your only
stop.
way to do it, huh? Oh man, there you go. I apologize.
Just a little too quick. You gotta wait just a little bit longer.
You know, the steering is super light.
It is pretty good for not having power steering.
It's so light, that's wild. I love the gauges. I don't even care if they don't work.
No.
They just look so
They
cool.
are cool looking. All right, now downshifting now.
Oh.
See if you can do it. There you go. Good.
Open her up here. Gee whiz!
Feel the power.
The shift happens like that though.
Well, we can go down the road a little bit if you want to.
Oh yeah,
You may have to get a little more speed.
it's not fast.
All right, now you can catch forward. There you go. Better.
It really drives not bad.
Not bad, other than all the noise coming from something.
I don't know how fast we're going, but that's probably 15.
I think we're probably going about 25 right now.
25, that's bold. There's a lot of flurries coming up. A lot of poopies.
This is the farthest it's been driven in 10 years.
This is so fun. What an experience. It does wander a little bit.
It does a little bit. I go and catch third real quick.
Oh, that was bad.
I catch second.
Oh, David. Oh,
There,
you
good
got me.
Hopefully Alex is still back there.
Oh, no brakes.
Okay, brake. There you go.
Oh, geez.
Woo. All right.
All
We
right,
don't have
ready?
any mirrors, so we're just going to have to...
Like that? Is that reverse?
Yep, there you go.
Oh, wow.
I'll look this way, you look that way. It's everybody's coming.
Wow, look at the torque in reverse. All right, here we go.
You
Oh,
might catch second now. Go third. Go third.
oh, killing me. I'm so sorry, truck.
That's all right.
Oh.
Our speed was just enough. You needed to hit third right there. Second was almost too low.
We were doing
Going
seven.
downhill. Now see if you can do that with that.
Whoa.
Hey, you got into fourth.
One
That's
gear.
right. Woo, feel that power?
It's got a nice sound to it.
It does, doesn't it?
All right.
Maybe we'll put a little brake on for you.
Thank you, David. It really is a two-person
It
job.
says, all right, now go second. There you go. Good.
What an experience. This is the most fun I've ever had behind the wheel of anything.
It's fun, isn't it?
Apart from the transmission and the lack of brakes, it's not that different from driving
No.
any other vehicle with manual. Oh, jeez. That's the wrong one.
Yeah, that would lift the bed up while you were driving.
That's an emergency stop. We're going downhill, two hands.
Downhill, it's a little tough to stop.
David, I am not apparently. You're not in my 1940s strength for this.
So Tommy, so here's my other tires that are the dually on the back. These are called a split rim, and these are a split rim ring. So it's hard to find a company that will put a new tire on these, because it's almost like a bead lock. This ring pops out, and then you put the tire on, and then you mash this ring back on in a press, and that's what keeps the tire on.
And I assume the danger is, like, if this is not seated properly, the ring can come flying off while you're
Exactly,
inflating.
like a rocket.
Now, David, do you have a title for this truck? Like, is it?
Oh yeah.
So if you wanted to, you could probably register it.
Oh yeah. I had it registered for years and years.
What do you think the top speed is on it?
37 and a half.
37 and a half. I love that. Was it did it serve its purpose well for you? Was it fast enough and hauled enough to get you done?
Well, let's just say I enjoyed driving the 62 more than I did the 45 because it would go the speed limit. The only problem with driving this is it was tough to get up to speed limit, and so people that were impatient didn't understand what kind of vehicle that you're driving history. You know, they would speed around you like you were slowing things up. But I do enjoy driving it just because of all the attention it gets.
I imagine that with 90 horsepower and a dump bed and a hydraulic system and steel that is apparently impervious to any kind of corrosion, it's quite heavy.
It is heavy, and it took a long time to get up to 37 and a half miles an hour.